Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about NFL quarterback Sam Darnold and the fact that he's recently contracted some mononucleosis and some astrological indicators for this, perhaps based on his natal chart and some transits he's experiencing right now. Now, the thing about this is, I don't know if this came, mononucleosis can potentially, it's possible, it can come from an STD or something sexually transmitted through saliva. But as far as an STD, if it was transmitted that way, it's something I don't know, and it might not ever be confirmed. But I'm thinking it's possible it could have come from that, likely be based on certain things I'm seeing through his natal chart and some transits. First thing, well, in his natal chart, the fact that he has, Sam Darnold has Venus making a square to his Mars, that could be an indicator right there. You're having Mars. I see Mars and Pluto and even Venus. They all can be, I believe, connected with STDs. Because Mars. The fact that it squares his Venus, could be a fairly strong indicator. He has got Mars in Virgo, and when you have mononucleosis, sometimes you can get some issues with the spleen because of that, and as one of the adverse effects, symptoms connected with it. And I think what's interesting too is that, okay, he has Mars actually conjunct his North Node in Virgo. Now, in a positive end, this manifests with him, I think, is maybe his future being tied into sports and competition work related, being very punctilious with details, being very analytical, being able to analyze, in this case, defenses. And in the solar sunrise chart I did for him, it's right near his fifth house cusp as well. And the fifth house, of course, governs sports. Now, though on a negative side, I see this as something, in some cases it could be a sexual, in some cases this could be about some issues that he may have to confront with spleen, as far as that goes. Given that the North Node is by his natal Mars in Virgo, he's also currently going through his Mars return, so I think this could bring up some issues with that as well. And the thing about it is also, when you get mononucleosis, it could also be associated with fevers as well. And looking at Mars, I believe that is connected with fevers as well. So you can do the math as far as that goes. Going through the Mars return in Virgo, the sign associated with health. Now, some other things he has as well. He has Neptune in Capricorn, but it's in 29 degrees. Neptune can be connected with the lymph nodes in astrology. This often, when you look at, mononucleosis can be connected, I see, with Pisces and Neptune, given that the lymph nodes can be affected because of this. And Neptune being at 29 degrees, you're talking about the full, what I see is the full culmination of the planet. Can give serious and intensified issues with this. It falls in the solar sunrise chart I did for him, because I don't know his birth time. It falls in his 8th house, and that could be the house STDs. So it wouldn't surprise me if this did come from something sexually transmitted. Like I said, I don't know that 100%. It's something we might never know, and it may never be confirmed, because this is Sam Darnold's life. It's his business, and even if he suspects something, that it may have come from that, he's not going to obviously divulge it, and I understand that. But at the same time, it can increase that, but what I just talked about could increase that propensity from something as far as the lymph nodes being affected in something that could have been from an STD. That was, where it was said, where this was sexually transmitted somehow. Now, this is something too. Looking at his chart, he has transit Neptune making a long square to his natal sun. Now, in some, this can manifest in multiple ways. This could be about feeling more lethargic, feeling more like daydreaming and relaxing than taking action. When you have mononucleosis, you might often feel more lethargic, lackadaisical. Your energy may be dissipated. Your vitality can be decreased. And remember, transit Neptune making an adverse aspect to one's natal sun can sometimes indicate there can be some issues with the lymph nodes, with the physical body, because Neptune is associated with that. He also has transit Saturn making an inconjunct aspect to his sun in Gemini. The Saturn inconjunct aspect, it might even be making him feel where even mundane tasks may be more arduous and laborious than usual. This could be about career restrictions affecting what he wants to do as far as his actions. And I mean, being in Gemini, of course, it could really be taking a toll on him, because Gemini energy, of course, involves certain dexterity and versatility. He is a quarterback. He has to have good use of his hands, being able to throw the ball. And I imagine this could be very exasperating and frustrating for Sam Darnold at this time. Now, another issue is what I noticed in a transit. He has transit Jupiter. Some may see this as a long opposition, making that opposition to his natal sun at this time. And Jupiter can be connected with the liver. When you have mononucleosis, this could be, you could have issues with the liver. When you have transit Jupiter making, whether a square, an opposition, I would say even an inconjunct, because inconjuncts could be about health issues, adjustments. You can have issues with the physical body, which are liver related. Now, this, I believe the ascendant is more connected with the physical body than the sun, but you still could have issues with the physical body when you have these negative adverse aspects coming from planets. Now, another thing in his chart too that I noticed, okay, we're going through some interesting transits he has. Again, as I stated before, he is going through his Mars return in Virgo, and that could be some issues with the spleen. It can be something swollen with the spleen. Mars can be about inflammation, swellings, but he also, at this time, what I think is interesting too, he's got Mercury over as well by his transit. Mercury is close to his north node, so this is something that was going to be, it was almost like this destiny, something issue with the spleen may be communicated very soon. It would not surprise me, but at the very least something health related, which has happened. Transit Venus is over by transit Venus is close to his north node in Virgo right now. Venus, of course, can be associated with the throat. There can be some issues with that when you have mononucleosis. He also has, interestingly enough, in the solar sunrise chart, I did again because I don't know his time of birth, so I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart for him. He has Scorpio on the cusp of the 6th house and Pluto in the 6th house of health. Scorpio being on the 6th can indicate some issues, health-related issues. That could be STD related. And as I stated before, I don't want to be overly redundant, monotonous with this, people, but I just want to say, record, I'm not saying that this definitely came from that, but I think there's a lot of indicators in his chart where it's a great propensity for him to have gotten the mononucleosis through this. And if he didn't get it through this at this time, it doesn't mean he couldn't get it through. It couldn't be derived that way through another incident later on in life. Now, another thing, and also too, one of the rulers of his 5th house is Mars, and that is in Virgo, and he has it by his north node. And one of the other rulers is Pluto. Of course, that is in the 6th house of health, and that could be an indicator right there, is what I was talking about before, as far as those health related matters may go, and could also indicate a lot of upheavals in matters associated with your health as well. So those are some things to look at at this time, as far as what he could be, as far as some matters in his as far as his natal chart and his and transits he's receiving to the chart, which can be indicators for perhaps some issues with what I've been describing. As far as his mononucleosis that he has recently gotten. And another thing too, he also has transit Sun approaching approaching his Mars right now. When you're talking about, I mean, transit Sun could be about what we have to focus our attention on. Virgo, of course, could be health-related issues, and Virgo specifically, again, could be associated with the spleen. So there may be some issues with that as well, because it is hitting that sixth house, one of the sixth house rulers, Mars in Virgo. And again, he is also going through his Mars return at this time. So really, those are some things to look at as far as Sam Darnold and as far as him having this sadly this mononucleosis situation. Now, at the same time as well, now looking at this and seeing if there's anything else. Now, at this time as well, he does have, I mean, with what I feel for him, I mean, I guess I can empathize because he has a Gemini moon as well, and he's got set with the transit Jupiter making the opposition to his natal. Well, the moon in Gemini, I mean, that could mean it's going to be in Gemini no matter what time he was born on this date. His birthday was like was June 5th. And he has the moon in 1997, June 5th, 1997. Moon is in Gemini regardless of his time of birth. And Jupiter is likely making, transit Jupiter may be making an opposition to it. It's making an opposition to it based on the sunrise chart I cast. But that being said, this could show a lot of distortion in terms of his moods right now, how he feels, and you could see him one moment maybe being if that is the case, if transit Jupiter actually is making an opposition to his natal moon, it's a good chance it is. If this is the case, you could see him being really very animated and really very effervescent one moment, and then the next moment it could really be almost just going the opposite way. And anyway, in transit Saturn could actually be making an inconjunct aspect to his moon in Gemini, depending on when he was time he was born. And if that's the case, he might be seeing some things right now as more feeling more gloom and doom and despondent at this time, more so than usual. So anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Sam Darnold and the mononucleosis he has recently gotten. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.